Good morning, good morning. It is day 39. The time for convening has arrived. The Senate will come to order. At this time, we'll ask all unauthorized personnel to exit the chamber. Waiting on the senator from the 28th. Recognize him for the reading of the journal.
Good morning, Mr. President. Happy day 39 to you, the reigning kickball champion of the world, as our trophy notes. Mr. President, on this day in 1945 during World War II, Iwo Jima was fully secured by U.S. forces following a final desperate attack by the Japanese. And for my good friend from the senator from the 8th, on this day in 1958, the man, the myth, the legend, Elvis Presley, was inducted into the United States Army. Great little tidbit. We got a great lineup of pages today. Out of Lake Spivey, we got Maya Edmondson. Out of Mableton, we got Maya Story. Out of Thompson, we've got Elizabeth Wansley. Out of Cove Creek Court, we've got Brooks Yeomans. Out of Tucker, we have sister and brother Uzma and Yusuf Naviwala. Out of Stone Mountain, we have brother and sister Cameron and Layla Smith. Out of Atlanta, we have Dominic Aiden. Out of Locust Grove, Emery Andrews. Out of Atlanta, Adam Crittenden. Out of Dublin, Jenner Hood. Out of Marietta, Ishan Mehta. Out of Marietta, Kevin Milliken. Also out of Marietta, Holt Rogers. Out of Atlanta, Joshua Rubinson. Many of y'all may know his mother, Marcy. Out of Locust Grove, Callie Sherbert. Out of McDonough, Amelia Vigil. Out of Gray, Andrew Williams. Out of Lawrenceville, Miles Wooden. Out of Evans, Sophie Campanero. Out of Augusta, Consuelo Chavaria. Out of Hawkinsville, Austin Creeters. Out of Snellville, Smire Naranjan. And also out of Snellville, we have Liu Samuel. Y'all give our pages a big round of applause. We got a lot of the bills on the calendar for you today. Lots of work to do. Mr. President, this journal has been read and found to be correct.
Thank you, Senator. We got a lot of pages here today. Thank y'all for being here. Greatly appreciate it. I bet most of y'all have spring break coming up very soon too, don't you? Can I see by the heads nodding there? I bet most of you do. So, Senator from the 12th, do you realize what today is? Today is my little girl's birthday today. Do you remember me bringing her down here first time I came here? So she's not little anymore. No. It's her birthday today, so she's 15 today. 15. That's hard to believe, isn't it? So, all right. Thank you. Do we have a password? Is there objection to the dispensing of the reading of the journal? Chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators who have bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the secretary's desk at this time. First reading references to Senate bills. Secretary?
Senate Bill 588 by Senator Still of the 48th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 4 of Title 10 of the
Agricultural.
UCGA. Senate Resolution 836 by Senator Harbin of the 16th and others, a resolution urging the United States
Regulated
Department.
industries.
Senate Resolution 844 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th and others, a resolution urging the Department of Insurance and the State Fire Marshal to enforce the International Fire Code and urging building
Public
owners.
safety.
Senate Resolution 845 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a resolution urging members of the United States
Interstate
Congress.
cooperations.
Senate Resolution 847 by Senator Ork of the 36th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on
Rules.
Universal. Senate Resolution 848 by Senator Summers of the 13th and others, a resolution congratulating and
Interstate
commending.
cooperations.
Senate Resolution 852 by Senator James of the 35th, a resolution recognizing and commending Bishop Anthony Usin Simi and other purposes.
Urban affairs.
Senate Resolution 853 by Senator Roman of the 5th and others, a resolution recognizing and
Interstate
commending.
cooperations.
If I could please the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 2nd. I recognize Senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since he's not up there presiding, maybe I should make a motion sine die. He don't don't think that's funny. Mr. President.
Yes.
I ask for unanimous consent to suspend Senate Rule 3-3.1, Paragraph A, to allow for the reading and assignment of appointments.
Secretary, read the caption.
The Council of Superior Court Judges of Georgia has submitted the names of the following appointments for confirmation by the Senate. Speaker of the House John Burns appointed Robert Bobby Marshall Kuchny III on July 24, 2023. Former Chief Justice David Namias appointed Judge Todd Markle. Governor Brian Kemp appointed Deputy Executive Counsel Evan Myers. Former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan appointed the General Counsel Regina Quick. Former Council of Superior Court Judges President Judge Arthur Lee Smith III appointed Judge Robert Chastain. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Is there objection? Without objection, they'll be referred to Committee on Assignments. I see my good friend Shelley Winters back there. Ah, there's my man Shelley. Everybody give Shelley a round of applause here. And his beautiful bride's with him as well. And I tell him all the time, give her a round of applause. Absolutely, absolutely. So good to have you, Shelley. First reading references to House bills and resolutions. Secretary?
House Bill 1478 by Representative Blackman of the 146 and others, a bill to be entitled Act to create the Mid-State Energy Authority as an institution performing an essential governmental
State
function.
and local government.
House Bill 1487 by Representative Collins of the 71st and others.
State and local government.
House Bill 1488 by Representative McDonald of the 26 and others, a bill to be entitled Act to authorize the Forsyth County to exercise all real development and other powers under
State and local government.
House Bill 1489 by Representative Saines of the 180th and others, a bill to be entitled Act to repeal an act creating the Cadman County Spaceport Authority, approved May 6, 2019, to provide for assets and liabilities thereof, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. House Bill 1494 by Representative Jackson of the 165th and others, a bill to be entitled Act to amend an act creating a new charter for the City of Garden City, approved April 17, 1973.
State and local government.
House Bill 1495 by Representative Jackson of the 128th, the bill to be entitled Act to amend an act providing for a new charter for the City of Sandersville, approved March 28, 1990, as amended particularly by an act approved May 6, 2015, so as
State
to
and local
revise.
government.
House Bill 1496 by Representative Widower of the 121st and others, a bill to be entitled Act to.
State and local government.
House Bill 1500 by Representative Wickerson of the 38th.
State and local government.
House Bill 1501 by Representative Silcox of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled Act to.
State and local government.
House Bill 1502 by Representative Montahan of the 17th and others, a bill to be entitled Act to amend an act creating the Paulding County
State
Airport
and local
Authority.
government.
House Bill 1503 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and others, a bill to be entitled Act to amend an act creating and establishing the joint.
State and local government.
House Bill 1504 by Representative Camp of the 135th and others, a bill to be entitled Act to.
State and local government.
That completes the order, Mr. President.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations General Local has had on consideration the following legislation and has instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation: that House Bill 1243 do pass, House Bill 1246 do pass, House Bill 1427 do pass, House Bill 1465 do pass, House Bill 1469 do pass, House Bill 1475 do pass, House Bill 1476 do pass, House Bill 1477 do pass, House Bill 1479 do pass, House Bill 1480 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? I recognize the senator from the 33rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 38th for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 38th is excused. Any other motions to excuse? Recognize the senator from the 22nd.
Also unanimous consent, Mr. President, for the senator from the 41st for business outside the Capitol.
Without objection, the senator from the 41st is excused. Any other motions? Any other motions to excuse? All right. Secretary will call the roll. Senator, signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary, unlock the machine. It is now time for the morning devotion. All senators, please take your seats and cease all conversation. I would ask that the doorkeepers secure the chamber at this time. I can settle everybody down here. I know there's a lot going on today and Thursday, but we got to get our chaplain in for the day. So all you House members, go ahead and exit the chamber. Y'all don't welcome us very well over there. We're not going to welcome y'all, even though we're going to try to pray for you. So, all right. Recognize the senator from the 53rd to introduce our chaplain of the day and lead us in our pledge. Senator?
So I'll rise for the pledge to the U.S. flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, moderation, and courage. Morning, Senators. I have a pastor of the day here on day 39, and I couldn't be more excited about the man I'm about to introduce you to, Reverend Bryant Collier. Reverend Bryant Collier and I met way back in high school. We were both members of Future Business Leaders of America, and I first saw Bryant up on stage as a high school student speaking to about 3,500 other high school students, and I was impressed with him then. My time in FBLA brought Bryant and I very close. We have traveled the country together, coaching Georgia FBLA students to compete against California and all these other states, and Georgia continues to be on the top when it comes to Future Business Leaders of America. He comes from Macon. He attended Fort Valley University. He went to Dallas Theological Seminary where he got his master's. He's seeking out his doctorate now in global studies and institutional reform. He's been a pastor all across the country. But when he's not a pastor, he mentors and is a keynote speaker at CTSO organizations all across our state. and across the nation. I tell you, we all have somebody in our lives who we can reach out to for ministry at the call of a phone at any hour of the day. If not, I certainly hope we'll find someone. For me, that is Reverend Bryant Collier. You ready to give him a good message? All right, here he is.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership and for your great hospitality. To my friend, State Senator, Senator Colton Moore, thank you, my friend. Very privileged to be here. It is an honor to stand before you. I would like to also acknowledge in the presence this morning Senator Lucas as well and his legacy in my hometown of Macon, Georgia. As I reflected on this moment and great opportunity, I was led to a very familiar passage that I hope will bring some inspiration to each of your hearts as you continue this great work for the greatest state of Georgia. Our passage this morning comes from Matthew chapter 14, starting at the 13th verse. It says, "Now when Jesus heard about John, he withdrew from there in a boat to a secluded place by himself. And when the people heard about this, they followed him on foot from the cities. When he came ashore, he saw a large crowd and felt compassion for them and healed their sick. Now when it was evening, disciples came to him and said, 'This place is secluded, and the hour is already past to eat. Send the crowds away so that they may go into their villages and buy food for themselves.' But Jesus said to them, 'They don't need to go. You give them something to eat.' And they said to him, 'We have nothing here except for 5 loaves and 2 fish.' And he said, 'Bring them here to me.' And ordering the crowd to sit down on the grass, he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and he looked up toward heaven. He blessed the food, and breaking the loaves, he gave it to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate, and they were satisfied, and they picked up and the leftover broken pieces, 12 baskets full. There were about 5,000 men who ate, besides women and children." When we were growing up as kids, we had a very vibrant imagination. We dreamed of being cowboys and astronauts. We dreamed about places we could go that money was no option. There was no issue. There was no limitation to our imagination. But as you get older and you begin to mature in life, what you seem to quickly find is that your imagination sobers a little bit. The things you would dream of before, you dream of no more. It's the creativity of children that can see anything at any place at any time. It's the 2-year-old that you give them a box for Christmas, and they're more interested in the box than what's actually in the box that you spent 5 hours in line trying to get. It's that imagination that is the essence of what we love of children. But as we grow older, that imagination dwindles. It's the soberness of life. It's the maturity of our realities. Troubles and traumas sober us, and we stop having that childlike imagination. Jesus had a long day in session. He had healed many who were sick. The disciples had witnessed all the works. It was a great day in the office, and they said, "It's time to send the people home." At the end of their day, he said, "Let's send them home so they can get something to eat." And Jesus says, "No, we're not going to send them home. You're going to feed them." Jesus pauses their intentions and creates an unplanned situation. Jesus requires them to meet a need that they had not planned to do. I'm sure that they are puzzled like many of us would be. There is a demand for something that they don't have the resources for. I don't really understand in full what all the pressures you face, but considering the seat and the pressure of the seat that you sit in to do this great work for the state of Georgia, I can't imagine sometimes how you may be faced by the obstacles that are in your way, challenges and frustrations. But my hope for you this morning is that miracles still exist. The presence of miracles are the responses to unplanned and impossible situations. When was the last time you prayed for a miracle? I'm sure during football season, In basketball season, we've all prayed that our teams would win. When we're hoping and waiting for results, we pray for miracles. But sometimes it's really hard in our day-to-day lives to really expect and our imagination to be open that there is sometimes a way out of no way. Miracles require faith that defies the odds. It requires an imagination that exceeds all realities. It is the use of limited resources to provide what we actually need. They had 2 fish and 5 loaves, 5,000 people, and they were seemingly against the odds. Here's the crazy part that I love of this passage. The disciples had seen miracles all day, but this miracle was for them. The people never get to really see the frustrations at the top of the mountain. The work and the grit of what you do day to day, they really don't get to understand those complications and frustrations. But what the people do really get to see is your hand. And so this morning, my hope and inspiration for you is that you be open and willing and hopeful for miracles today, even on day 39, that you see the hope that God provides to us all. And this week, as we celebrate Holy Week, it is important that we realize that there was an answer and a solution that existed with limited resources. It was a miracle for the disciples, but the people were the beneficiaries of it. As you continue your work for this great state that we all love, I pray that your heart would be opened, that the pressures of this work, the pressures of life, both in this room and at your homes, that it doesn't weigh down your imagination and that you still believe in miracles. Would you stand with me for a word of prayer? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Thank you for this great day, for this great state, for this great body of people. My prayer today is that we would all be open with creativity and imagination, knowing that miracles still exist. That there is no mountain, there is no river, there is no valley that is too deep, too wide, too vast, that we cannot tunnel through, crawl through, make our way through into the victory on the other side. Challenges face us all more than we can sometimes express. Resources are many times limited. But we thank you for being the provider of it all. We thank you for showing us ways out of no way. And as you have done for me, I pray that you would do for those in this room when the day seems dark and the way seems long. Lead us to the rock, which is higher than I. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
See it?
Yeah.
We have our doc of the day here. Young lady born and raised right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'd like to call on the senator from the 39th to introduce our doctor of the day.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. I am excited to introduce you to Dr. Delphine Head. She's a family practice primary care physician with the Southeast Permanente Medical Group, where she provides care at Kaiser Permanente Cascade. She chose family medicine because she enjoys developing relationships with her patients and treating generations of families. She truly believes that she was born to be a physician and is excited to fulfill her purpose in life. She is, as you heard, an Atlanta native, graduated from Benjamin E. Mays High School, received her medical degree from the University of South Alabama College of Medicine, and completed her internship and residency through the Morehouse School of Medicine Family Medicine Residency Program. In addition to her clinical work, Dr. Head has served in a number of leadership positions, including her current role as the lead of government relations for the West area of the Southeast Permanente Medical Group, and her past role as president and chair of the board of the Atlanta Medical Association. She joined the Southeast Permanente Medical Group in 2014 and has the prestigious honor of practicing medicine in the same community where she was raised. Outside of the office, she's an active member of her church, where she teaches and serves on the Health and Fine Arts Ministry. And she is no stranger to this Capitol, as you have seen her before, but help me in welcoming Dr. Delphine Head.
Thank you, Senator Halpern. First, I want to thank all of you for your tireless dedication to the people of Georgia. As was said, I am an Atlanta native, and the term born here, not flown here, is relevant to me. As an Atlanta native, I can't count how many times I've driven by this iconic building, so to be able to serve here is an honor. So feel free to come down and visit us at the medical aid station for whatever ails you. And to sweeten the deal, listen very closely. I'm about to say a sentence that all of you will love to hear, but rarely hear when you see your doctor. There is no copayment necessary.
All right, good job, good job, good job, good job. If I could have everybody's attention real quick. If I get everybody's attention real quick, and if I get the doorkeepers to secure the door here. As many of you know, we've got a few long-term legislators here who are calling it the end of their road here at the Capitol, and we've got several special ones who've been here for quite some time. And I know today we had the family of the senator from the 34th here, and I've got the senator from the 10th that wants to come up here and say a few words on her behalf. Senator, come on up here. They didn't give me a whole amount of lead time on anything, so I'm just gonna go for it.
Thank you, Mr. President, and members of this body. If I could ask one courtesy of those of us that serve in this chamber, if you will please just take your seats for a moment. I have the distinct honor of recognizing one of our own. She has served in this body for 22 years, and I know she's served in the body across the aisle for another 2. But when I had this opportunity to take this moment and talk about someone that I've come to love not just as a legislator, but also as a good friend. And I know her family members are here, so if they could join and just stand around me and get a little bit closer. And I also know my Senate admin is going to join me in a presentation as well. And Mr. President, I promise to be brief, but I was raised in the Baptist church. But when I think about Senator C, there was a song this morning that came to mind. It was a song about, it was written by Michael Jackson. It was titled something about Heal the World. And you see, when I think about Senator C, she is that magnanimous kind of person who really believes in not just healing the world, but she also believes in healing her community, her family. And I hope all of you agree with me on both sides of this aisle that she has been a very pivotal person in this chamber who has certainly brought a lot of joy and healing to all of us in this body. The resolution that was presented, that's already been read, talks about her career and all of the many things that she's accomplished. But I just want to talk about the person who's been the pillar of this district, the 34th, for many, many years to come, and a person who I've had an opportunity to share a suite with, along with Leader Butler and Senator Orrock. And let me just tell you, being the only junior senator up there with those three dynamic women has always been a challenge. So now you all understand why I get beat up all the time. But you see, Senator C sits directly across from me, and occasionally she would open her door and I would hear her talk to her constituents and the passion in her voice for service. Senator, you taught me how to serve. You taught me how to represent my constituents in this body so many, many years ago. Despite some of the challenges she's had, there's never been a moment where you've come in here and you've not brought the radiance and the smile on your face. Thank you for blessing us. You see, Senator C is just one of those people who has always sought to heal the world. You know, I woke up this morning saying I'm going to write this fabulous speech about her, but her story writes itself. She doesn't need me to tell it. For those of us that served with her so many years, we know about her. We know how she's fought through challenges. We know how she's fought through the agony and the pain of serving. We know how she's accepted rejection, and even those times where she occasionally get a bill passed. We know about all those moments. Those of us that served with her in the Democratic caucus downstairs, led by Senator Butler, we know how fierce of a fighter she's been and for those issues that she's passionate about. You see, I could go on and on talking about my friend, the senator from the 34th. But I want to invite her family, who has been so gracious to join us in this surprise. And I know Wendy and Janae and Scotty and Beverly and Jamie and Erica, where are you all? Somewhere hanging around here. There they are in the back there. Y'all please come on up here. And Mr. President, with your permission, we do have a few gifts that we would like to share with the senator from the 34th. So will the escorts please bring the senator from the 34th to the rostrum? You know, I've always wanted to say that, Mr. President. One thing that I know about Senator C is that she always believes in family, and if her family has been her bedrock. She talks about her grands all the time. She talks about her own kids and her husband and those that have been critical to her success. And I say to each of us today that behind all of us, we know stand so many people that depend on us. Up here today is just a few that I know that stood behind her mother, her grandmother, as a wife, as a senator, as a community activist, as an educator, as a banker, and folks, the list goes on and on and on. And may I also say, on a personal note, as a good friend, and I would like to present this framed resolution to her. I'm gonna give this to a member of the family. And we know how much, Senator, you love to travel and to fly. This is a debit card with a whole lot of money on it. Please travel to a place that you deem fit, and may I ask, is great in Miami this time of the year. And one last, anything in here? We'd like to present to you, and up in the, in my room is a big, oh, yes, thank you. They've been ahead of me, and thank you. But in front of you is a framed rug that we did for Senator C that speaks to her life, and it really speaks to her legacy. Senator, thank you for blessing me and all of us that serve in this great body. We're gonna miss you, and we love you dearly.
"22 years in this chamber. Who would have thought that little girl from Herndon Homes would be one of 56 in this great state she was born and raised in? But the only topping that is having family. I know I've talked a lot about them grandkids growing up around here, but I tell you, for someone who doesn't have a college degree to have given birth to a doctor, Dr. Wendy, and for someone who had an aunt that literally cried coming in this building because even though she was an educator, she said she couldn't come in this building when she was a kid. And to know that her seed had an office on the top floor in this building, she cried. So these tears are tears of joy, but it is of excitement of having taken this journey. But I would have to add to my sweet mate, you make me sick. He's always doing surprising things. He's just such a good guy, but neither of us could keep our office going without you, Megan. Thank you so much. This truly does mean a lot, and it does mean that my phone still works. I still can drive, so if you need me, call me, and I will answer. Thank you so much for everything. This journey is more than I could say. But I will end by saying, to God be the glory.
Are there any unanimous consents? Does any senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? Recognize senator from 56 on a point of personal privilege.
Mrs. Rhodes. Keenan. Have them come over here. Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you, senators. I'm going to ask Mrs. Rhodes and Mackenzie to come over here to the side while I recognize and celebrate Carol Lynn Manross Rhodes, where Mrs. Rhodes has dedicated 40 years of her 84 years of life of selfless service to the North Fulton community, enriching the lives of its residents through her commitment, compassion, and profound impact of her actions. And whereas from her youth, Carol has demonstrated leadership and charm, being honored as both a prom queen and May Queen, as well as serving as a leader and member of countless honor societies, all of which reflect her ability to inspire and to unite those around her. And whereas Carol did not allow her humble beginnings to dictate her life's trajectory, her relentless perseverance led her to become a first-generation college honor graduate from Penn State University, as well as earned distinction as salutatorian of her high school class. And whereas Carol devoted 26 years of her professional life to teaching, imparting her wisdom and fostering growth in subjects ranging from home economics to special needs education. And whereas her passion for education and mentorship did not wane upon her retirement, and her dedication continued in substitute teaching for the last 16 years, a testament to her enduring commitment to education development and North Fulton's youth. And whereas despite the challenges of the pandemic, Carol's unwavering dedication to teaching and mentoring was demonstrated by her fearless commitment to the children of North Fulton, prioritizing their growth and over her safety. And whereas Carol's service extends beyond formal education, touching the lives of her community efforts, including crocheting hats and knitting toys for premature babies and making blankets for those less fortunate. And her resilience as a devoted wife for 60 years and as a military spouse who at times had to independently raise 2 children while her husband was stationed elsewhere defending our country. And whereas her role as a mother, grandmother of 5, and second mother to many, many in our community exemplify the depth of her love and compassion for others. And whereas Carol Lynn Manross Rhodes is an irreplaceable woman and a citizen throughout the kindness she has given to others and the character and strength has demonstrated through her life has touched the lives of all those who have been fortunate enough to meet her, including our very own Mackenzie Rhodes, who serves up in the 421 office suite to help each one of us out, who is a dear neighbor to one of my closest friends in the world. Carol, we are so honored to recognize to you today. Senators, if you please give her a round of applause for her great work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, senators. Day 39's here. We're almost finished. Time to land the plane. I'm excited today to have some guests from my hometown of Dahlonega, Lumpkin County, here with us this morning up in the gallery and also in the back of the room. I'd like to recognize the Lumpkin County High School's men's wrestling for being named the AAA dual state champions this year. They have done extremely well throughout the years in the wrestling program at Lumpkin County under the leadership of their superintendent, who is in the back of the room, Miss Sharon Head, assistant superintendent Greg Trammell, athletic director Steve Horton, and also outgoing principal Billy Kirk. Their leadership has been instrumental in creating an environment where our athletes can thrive academically and competitively. So I would like to ask all of you to give these young wrestlers in the gallery your appreciation for them being here and recognize them for all their hard work. You guys stand up in the gallery if you don't mind, and we'll recognize you today. There they are. Mr. President, I'd love to see these young men back down here next year. We can recognize them again for another great year. Thank you all.
Absolutely, Senator. I bet they will be. I'd be willing to bet on them. Recognize Senator from the 16th for a point of personal privilege.
Senators and people in the chamber, we recognize a lot of folks when they have passed away with a moment of silence. But we have a friend, someone who's been a senator, who's our labor commissioner, which is Bruce Thompson. And I don't know about you, but if I were facing what he was facing with cancer, I would want as many people praying as I could find. And I'd like for us this morning to do something that's a little unusual, but I would like us to just pray specifically for Bruce this morning. I'm going to say a prayer, and I just ask that you would say a prayer that at the same time, I believe that would be honoring unto him. And I don't know about y'all, but if I were in that facing cancer, I would want as many prayers as I could. So if you'll bow your head for just a minute.
If we could have everybody's attention to pray for one of our former colleagues, the Commissioner of Labor, Mr. Bruce Thompson. Okay. Senators asked for us to take a moment of silence for his well-being.
We can pray. Okay. Lord, we thank you. We thank you that we can come to you. And your word tells us we can come boldly under the throne of grace because of the blood of Jesus. And Father, we intervene and we ask that you would heal our friend Bruce Thompson right now. We pray that you would touch him, that you would give the doctors wisdom and discernment. But Father, that he, dear Lord, belongs to you. And we would ask that in the name of Jesus, you would heal him, you would remove the cancer that is in his body. And Father, that you would be glorified and honored in what's done in his life. Thank you for him as a friend, as a colleague, and someone who has served the people of Georgia. And we ask that you would heal him in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Senator. Recognize the Senator from the 33rd for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, my fellow senators, colleagues, friends, and y'all. Today, it gives me the privilege to present a resolution for the members of the Sweetwater Mission. Whereas Sweetwater Mission has been stabilizing families by preventing hunger and homelessness while transforming lives through education and employment opportunities since 1968. Whereas in 1967, Bill Setchback, a retired Army Ranger and Vietnam veteran, couldn't find a job when he returned to Austell, Georgia. Whereas inspired by a mission study at the First Baptist Church in Austell, he decided to put his free time to good use and volunteered at the local Family and Children's Service Agency and began delivering surplus food to needy families. Whereas he was astounded by the needs he encountered and the seed for an all-volunteer, multicultural, multi-denominational, community-based ministry had taken root, the Community Action Mission Program, or otherwise known as CAMP. Whereas in the year following, CAMP became Sweetwater Mission, and for more than 50 years has worked through word and deed addressing the physical, psychological, intellectual, and spiritual needs of others and proving to its commitment to bettering the community. Today, it continues to break records in distributing food, and Sweetwater Mission is working on enhancing its education and community center to help those in need to become self-sufficient. Whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper that the outstanding accomplishments of this remarkable and distinguished group should be appropriately recognized, we now therefore resolve by the Senate that the members of this body are recognized, and we commend Sweetwater Mission for its great works in the community. I especially want to recognize Deborah Giannatio, Pat Sodden, and Jim, and the people up there from Sweetwater who are here. Stand up and let's everybody give them applause and thank them for their efforts in the community. Thank you, Mr. President, and for that, after that, I yield the well.
Recognize Senator from the 44th.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today to congratulate the DeKalb County School System Cedar Grove High School Saints football team for winning the 2023 Class 3A Boys State Football Championship. The DeKalb County School System is dedicated to developing students academically as well as athletically. Then the number 2 ranked Cedar Grove High School Saints football team, under the direction of the head coach John Adams, defeated the number 4 ranked Savannah Christian Raiders in a 49-28 victory to win the state 3A football title at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta on Wednesday, December the 13th, 2023. The Saints pulled away from the 14-14 second quarter tie with 4 unanswered touchdowns to go on up to 42-14 with 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and a 31-yard pass gave the Saints the lead for good. The quarterback is with us today. E.J. Colson finished the game and became the GPDB player of the game. We have a list of many football players that played that day, but we recognize and commend the head coach, John Adams, and the members of his assistant staff, Kendrick Collar, Matthew Dry, Isaiah Cook, Deontay Fox, Brandon Jackson, William Hanna, Terrence Hill, Marlon Moore, Henry Mabry, and Ryan Witherspoon. With this decisive win, Cedar Grove High School is now home to the first DeKalb County football program to win 5 state titles. Woo! So the Georgia State Senate congratulates and acknowledges the great athletic accomplishments of the DeKalb County School System Cedar Grove High School Saints football team, having achieved one of the highest levels attainable by a high school football program. In the gallery today, we have the team members. Would you please stand if we have the team members in the gallery? Give them a big hand. To my right here, we have the principal of Cedar Grove, Mr. Spears. Thank you. The quarterback, E.J. Colson. Sawan Smith. Raise your hand. Javon Beckfoot. Cameron Farley. And that whole team. Thank you so much for coming to your house, the people's house, and congratulations on your great accomplishments. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the way.
All right, let's give those young men a round of applause here, being state champs. Recognize the senator from the 35th for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, yes, this is the day that the Lord hath made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it, maybe even to midnight tonight with all these bills we have. So quickly, I'd like to recognize first some students from the Leaders of America initiatives, the YAL, who have been sent here to work with the A.D. King Foundation, Mrs. Naomi King, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, whose husband was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's brother. But anyway, four young men are here from Ecuador, Bahamas, Antigua. Stand, please. The exchange students, there they are. Please give them a warm welcome to the great state of Georgia. Thank you very much for being here and for your service. But I have other exciting news today. We have to honor and introduce a remarkable individual whose journey transcends boundaries of music and ministry, Mr. Montel Jordan. Step up, Mr. Jordan and Mrs. Jordan, while I introduce you. Known for his iconic hit, This Is How We Do It, he soared to the top of the charts in 1995, sharing the limelight with legends like Coolio, TLC, Mariah Carey. But his story didn't end there. Over a nearly 20-year career, Montel released 7 studio albums, 14 singles, achieving Grammy Award-winning status and selling over 10 million records worldwide. However, Montel's accomplishments span broader than the music industry, transitioning from an artist to a dedicated author and pastor. He penned 2 influential books, which include being his autobiography, co-authored with his beautiful wife, who's standing with him right now, Kristen, and his ability to bridge genres and styles in music now serves in a greater purpose. He's spreading the word of God and offering a unique perspective on music, worship, and life. Right here in Georgia, he's a minister of God, pastoring the Masterpiece Church in Decula, Georgia. Montel brings love and faith to global concert venues. He also advocates for diversity, equality, and inclusion, and serves as a champion ambassador for the Special Olympics of North America. Married to his wife for 30 years, he is both a father and grandfather. Montel has said his greatest achievements include his dedication to family and faith in the Lord. So today, we honor not just an artist, but a visionary whose life and work inspire us to blend our passions and our purpose. I thank you. And we have passed a resolution, and I can't walk over there. Come, you can come a few feet.
Yes, you can come right here.
Okay. This resolution has been passed by the state of Georgia, the state senate. It's state resolution 811, and since we are on the last day and I can't talk any longer, I have the honor of presenting this award to you for all of your great talents in ministry as well as in music. Thank you. God bless you both. And let's give them a-
All right. Come on in. Thank you, Senator, and thank you for Montel and his beautiful bride being down here today. Recognize Senator from the 50th. Got a hard act to follow right there, Senator.
Hard act to follow, but I brought gifts. You'll notice on your desk today you've got some cookies from the city of Toccoa. I've got a great group from the heart of my district here from Stevens County. They're up in the gallery at Stevens County Day at the Capitol. And I just want to recognize them. Thank y'all for coming down. If y'all would help me in welcoming them to the Capitol. If y'all stand up, and we'll recognize you guys for being here today. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to rise on a point of personal privilege? You have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? All right. Would you like? It's a different consent calendar, Senator, I think, if y'all are talking about the same thing. Okay. Is there objection to the adoption of resolution on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The resolution of the consent calendar is adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? You have before you a consent calendar of resolutions expressing the will of the Senate. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Senator from the 42nd. Recognize you.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to remove SR 634 from the consent calendar.
All right, Senator is asking to remove SR 34 from the consent calendar. Is there objection to that? Without objection, we'll move it to Rules Committee. Does any other senator wish to remove a bill from the local consent calendar? All right, the questions on the consent calendar. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is Senator from the 42nd, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is this on SR 718?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Questions on the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 52, the nays are 0, and all resolutions on the consent calendar having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. You have before you a consent calendar of study committee resolutions. Does any senator wish to remove a resolution from the consent calendar? Questions on the consent calendar of study committee resolutions. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolutions on the consent calendar? Chair hears none. The report of the committee are agreed to. Question is on the adoption of the resolution on the consent calendar. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machines. On the adoption of resolutions on the consent calendar, the yeas are 52, the nays are 1, and all the resolutions on the calendar have received the requisite constitutional majority and therefore are adopted. You have before you a consent calendar of local bills. The Secretary, have any objections been filed for any of the local bills on the consent calendar?
Mr. President, no objections been filed.
No objections filed. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the Committee on State and Local Governmental Operations, which is favorable to the passage of the bills on the local consent calendar? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Questions on the passage of the bill on the local consent calendar. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0. This bill on the local consent calendar, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
All right. Good morning, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent that the following bills and resolutions be engrossed at this time. House Bill 101, House Bill 946, House Bill 581, House Resolution 1022, House Bill 264, House Bill 974, House Bill 976, House Bill 977, House Bill 1021, House Bill 1207, House Bill 814, House Bill 82, House Bill 971, House Bill 1182, House Resolution 804, and House Resolution 96.
Senator from the 26th, what purpose do you rise?
Question, sir.
State your question.
Can we engross all of these bills at one time, or don't we have to vote on them separately?
Well, Senator, if there is objection.
Well, I object.
All right. You have the right to do that. Are you objecting to us voting on them all at once, and you want to vote them all at the same time?
Like to vote them one at a time.
One at a time. Well, you are entitled to that, Senator. Is there anyone in particular that you want to withdraw, or you want all of them? All right. Secretary, read the caption. We'll vote them one at a time. Senator from the 26th, as much as I would love to vote these one at a time, this is standard procedure for us to vote on finance bills like this and engross them. So we'll duly note that you're objecting, I'm sure, to what I'm about to say. But what we're going to do is move that I'm not going to recognize you, but you're welcome to object to it, and we'll vote on your objection.
Inquiry.
Basically, I'm denying your request, Senator.
I understand that. But isn't it true, based on the rules, and I go over every now and then, I can't figure out where I saw that, but isn't it true that you got to take 2/3 vote in order to agree to what the majority leader is saying?
In this occasion, you just got to overrule the chair.
You my friend, but I challenge the decision of the chair.
And I appreciate your friendship, and you're welcome to challenge here. So that's why we're going to vote it real quick, so that we don't have to be here all day voting on engrossment here. So you're duly noted.
Challenge the decision of the chair.
Yes, sir. Duly noted. So the senator from the 26th has challenged the chair's decision, and majority leader. All those in favor of the senator from the 26th? So everyone in favor of overruling my decision will vote no, and the rest is yes. So shall the ruling of the chair be overturned? Be sustained, excuse me. So, Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 51st, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, in order to move forward with this important legislation on our calendar today, we need to vote the green button to
Senator knows what he
sustain
speaks.
the ruling of the chair?
Senator knows what he speaks. Senator, recognize Senator from the 26th.
Mr. President, isn't it true that we've done what we wanted to do on everything else, and that I disagree with the majority leader?
You have that right, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 42nd.
Which ruling of the chair is this about? Is my parliamentary inquiry the first one
Just
or
vote
the
green,
second
Senator.
one?
All appealing the ruling of the chair, the yeas are 33, and nays are 17, and the ruling of the chair is sustained. All right, now we got this. Now, the motion is on engrossment, which y'all can debate. And Senator from the 51st, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this isn't unusual. We have this every legislative day. Every bill that comes out of the Finance Committee or the Ethics Committee is engrossed by this chamber. We've done it for decades. It's nothing new. All of these bills have been vetted properly by their committees. There have been plenty of opportunities for amendments, disagreements, and so forth. All we're doing today is moving this forward. We're 74 bills and 8 resolutions on our calendar for today and Thursday. We've got a lot of work to do in the last 2 days. Let's get together, work together, and move forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from the second, you speaking? Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. President. I think this issue may have gone a little better, Mr. President, had we served notice that we were going to move for engrossment on the first reading. But it appears that this is going to be the third reading of bills and resolutions, and therefore the majority leader has moved for engrossment, the senator from the 51st, and there are 16 bills that have been moved for engrossment. Now, I don't know about you, but those notebooks are kind of thick. And I'm a public school graduate, Mr. President. It might take me a little time to flip through to figure out exactly what we're engrossing. Now, normally in this body, we engross 1 to 3 bills. We know where they've come out from. We've got some understanding about those bills. But this opportunity, there are 16 bills that are moved for engrossment, and I'm sure every member in this body hadn't read all of them. So you may be voting on engrossment and not knowing that you're voting on something that you may want to amend. That may be my posture. That may be the posture of colleagues in the majority. It may be the posture of the minority leader. It may be the posture of the minority whip. But colleagues, we got to have a time to figure that out. And if the majority leader was going to move for a motion on engrossment, he could have simply given the minority leader a list of the bills to move for engrossment so that the minority caucus was prepared for such a measure, but that did not occur. And so therefore, it is the posture of the minority as we're discussing engrossment. We have 16 bills that we're not prepared for engrossment on, and the senator from the 26 has objected, and we wanted to divide the question so that we would know each bill that we're voting on engrossment on. This is a lump sum gathering of all the bills together, and the minority caucus disagrees with engrossment. And to say that we only engross bills from ethics or finance is also not true, Mr. President, because we've engrossed other bills from other committees that are not finance or ethics. And so you can shear sheep year after year, but you can only skin him once. And so that is the posture of the minority caucus. Had we been prepared for engrossment, this might have gone a little bit different, colleagues. It would have taken no more time to give the minority leader a list of the bills up for engrossment so we would have the appropriate time to prepare. But here we are in the posture we're in now. So if you've read all 16 of those bills, then you should vote yes on engrossment. But the way I look at some of the notebooks on the desk, they haven't even cracked the spine yet. So therefore, you should vote no because you don't even know what's being engrossed. And so with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
All right. So that is the end of the debate on that. Senator, you still want to engross all those bills? I'm assuming he does. So on the motion to engross, those in favor of engrossment will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion to engross, the yeas are 32 and the nays are 20. And these bills are engrossed. Moving on to the rules calendar. Starting with House Bill 206. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 206, a bill by Representative Saints of the 180th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government, so as to provide for the creation of the Commercial Property Assessed Conservation Energy and Resiliency Department authorities and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brasso, the 28th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 206. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 62 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to development authorities so as to authorize development authorities to provide certain financing for qualifying improvements, including energy efficiency, water conservation, renewable energy, and resiliency improvements, to provide for powers and for other purposes. Senator Estevez of the 6th and others offered the following amendment to amend the Senate Committee on Rules substitute to House Bill 206 by replacing lines 1 and 2 with the following. To amend Chapter 42 of Chapter 62 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to downtown development authorities and development authorities respectively, so as to authorize such authorities to provide certain and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 47th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can't be last if you're first. So for me, one of the things I want to let everybody in here know, the bill that came over from the House passed 167 to 1. We've improved it. And I want to say that I want to help my colleagues in both parties and what we're doing here. This is a reinvestment in your community. Basically, if you've got a commercial piece of property, commercial industrial piece of property, either renovation or new construction, they can go in and take an assessment on that property just like a tax bill and improve the financing so that they can get a much better interest rate with a tax-backed assessment loan. And that's what this bill is about. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the bill. I think you'll see on your desk there's several organizations that have endorsed it, everybody from the Georgia Manufacturing Association, the Georgia Hotel Lodging Association, Georgia Restaurant Association, the Georgia Municipal Association, and the Georgia Economic Developers Association. Right now, there's 34 states that have similar legislation in their states. It's a good bill, and I will also address one of the amendments that you see in front of you is from Senator Estevez. That's actually just opening the door a little bit bigger, so more than just the county development authority, downtown development authorities can also provide this service. But you work through the assessment with your local development authority and your tax commissioner, and it has to be agreed on in all the case. If there's no questions, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
Senator from 53rd, do you want to speak in the way? Okay, so you have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator from the 6th, speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a friendly amendment that, as the chairman said, ensures that 138 downtown development authorities across the state are able to participate in this great program. It's a great bill, and I urge all of you to support the amendment and to support the underlying bill. With that, I yield the will.
Recognize Senator from 53rd, speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I tell you what, mighty shocked that this is the first piece of legislation that we have on the rules calendar. Throughout this legislative session, I've thought of this bill as probably one of the most egregious to freedom and to the proper roles of government. It's mind-boggling to me that a Republican-controlled legislature, both in the House and probably here in the Senate, is going to pass this legislation. We heard from the senator who was carrying it that there was only one no vote in the House. That's a lie. There were 38 no votes in the House. Republicans. You see, I believe that the proper role of government, and I've said this many times at this well, is to spend taxpayer money on infrastructure like roads, public safety like law enforcement, and education like teachers. The proper role of government is not to prop up a socialist agenda. As I've said it this well before, go to the Democratic Socialist of America's webpage and you will find something horrendous. It says climate change will create an opening for socialist politics by breaking the link between capitalist growth and political legitimacy. You see, this piece of legislation, it creates a department for environmental causes. This thing was copied and pasted out of something from California, I believe, as we're going to take government grant money, our taxpayer dollars, and we're going to fund resilience improvement projects like seismic activity retrofits. And we're only going to do it for residents or multifamily residents of 5 or more. So theoretically, if you've got some rental property and your rental property is on 24-inch centers, you can take some government grant money and put it on 16-inch centers. You need some government grant money to buy yourself a generator? Well, you can do it with this piece of legislation. You see, this piece of legislation describes government's role as promoting sustainability. There's grant money all through this. It's called the Green New Deal to the people I talk to. You know, there's been talk that there were changes made to this legislation after there was a robust push to object to it. But all that really happened was the language changed to other public monies, which I think reinforces the fact that this bill is going to use public money for sustainability infrastructure projects. But while we're using money, our taxpayer money, our hard-earned taxpayer money for this nonsense, the bill gets more egregious. You see, lines 3 through 5, this is a big, long bill. Lines 3 through 5, with or without consideration. So it kind of alludes to some tyranny there on 335. But then the tyranny continues in the last part of section 5. When it says, line 422, shall take effect immediately and need not be laid over, published, or posted. So let me give you a synopsis of the bill. We're going to take hard-working Georgians' money. We're going to dish it out for things like retrofitting houses for seismic activity. Tell me the last time you had an earthquake in your district. And then guess what? The government that's spending the money that they're not entitled to, they don't have to publish or post it. This piece of legislation is absolutely egregious. I ask that you would vote no, especially if you call yourself a conservative Republican. And Mr. President, I'll yield for any and all questions.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 47th.
I apologize to the senator from the 53rd and from others here. I missed the vote count. I was looking at a different bill that I'm presenting. For that, I apologize. But you said that this bill does something for residential. This is not a residential bill. This is for commercial industrial property. And this is where, for me, would like to know where in there do you see anything residential?
Well, residential property, meaning that someone is living there, a multifamily unit. So you have rental property. I think I made that clear in my argument. But to make it even more clear, I mean, when we're using taxpayer money to influence the free marketplace with nonsense like seismic activity, I mean, my gosh, you and I are both Republicans, and I wish we would act like it.
All right, Senator.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. I ask that you vote no.
Recognize the senator from the 2nd, the feisty senator from Savannah, Georgia today.
Thank you, Mr. President. I woke up this morning, and I don't know what I had in the coffee this morning, but I'm fired up, Mr. President. And I tell you what, everything you just heard about this bill, I can't even fathom, because that's not what it does. If you support small businesses that are in your district, local hotel owners and operators that are in your community, you have other industries that are moving to your community, those new industries will get abatements and incentives to move in. But the existing folks that may need to make improvements, that if they made some infrastructure changes, they might be able to save some money on their utility, pay employees more, pay wages better, do some things to retrofit some other things that they may need to do to scale up their business, to grow their business. This is a bill for those businesses, because when businesses locate here, they get a lot of support. But for our existing infrastructure and industries that are already here, those businesses that don't qualify for any of the additional tax credits, this bill would allow them, with the consent of the municipality, the county, as well as the development authority, to all enter into an agreement to then tax them so that they can go into the private capital market and get private capital funding that would then be backed by the municipality, the county, issuing a bond that will be paid for. This is no different than a development authority doing a bond for title transaction. This is very similar to that. In order to make these things happen in our community, this bill will allow us to do great things for our small businesses that exist. If you got a hotel in your district, they may need to make some improvements or some upgrades. It's better for them to keep that money, but they don't have the capital to go out and get the financing. This allows for them to tax themselves over a period of time to get the financing secured, with the municipality and the county government agreeing, and they're agreeing that we will then be taxed and we'll pay our taxes. Because if you don't pay your taxes, I'm sure the senator from the 53rd would agree with me that the government will show up and levy your property, put a padlock on it, and auction it off if you don't comply with your end of the deal. So there's stopgap provisions in this measure to allow for this bill to pass. Today, I would ask for your favorable consideration. If you support small business, this is a bill for small business. And I heard the senator from the 53rd say, if you're a Republican, you won't vote for this bill. I think my colleagues in the majority are small business Republicans, and I tell you all the time, I'm a small business Democrat. And I think that this is something that we could agree on bipartisan today. And we can have a great rest of our day, and I ask for your favorable consideration, colleagues, because this is a good bill for small businesses inside of each of our districts. And with that, Mr. President, if there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
All right, no questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. It's on amendment. First, we're going to take up amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 6th. Is there objection to amendment number 1? Without objection, amendment number 1 is added. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute is amended. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 181.
House Bill 181, a bill by Representative Townsend of the 179th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to controlled substances so as to provide that mitragynine and hydroxymitragynine are Schedule I controlled substances, to repeal provisions relating to the regulation of Kratom and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends that this do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District, Chairman. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 181, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 13 of Title 16 of the OCGA relating to Kratom so as to revise definitions to prohibit the sale or transfer or of possession of Kratom to an individual under 21 years of age and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the Rules Chairman to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring y'all HB 181, the Kratom bill. I'll walk you through it real quick. Section 1 is your definitions. Section 2, we're raising the age limit from 18 to 21 years of age to purchase Kratom. Get down towards lines 56, we're banning vaping of Kratom. A little bit further down, we're moving Kratom behind the counter. Currently, they can pretty much put it anywhere in the store. We're simply moving it behind the counter just like a pack of Rips. Line 69 is going to be some of your penalties for retailers. Section 3, you get into the manufacturing piece and your producers putting on limits saying they can't alter it from its natural state. Page 5, lines 97 and down, we're dealing with labeling. We want it to be safe, and we want to make sure that the serving sizes are very legible and what's in it, the ingredients. And getting on over to page 6, we've got penalties for processors. We've got more penalties for retailers. And if the processor and retailer, if they're knowingly or with criminal negligence violating any section of the law, then they're going to be held to the same standard. But if there's just simple negligence, the retailers are actually going to be held at a less standard just because they don't know. That's pretty much the bill. I'll yield for questions.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator, is it not true that these regulations are necessary because Kratom is more of a snake oil type substance that's being sold and being claimed to assist in those addicted to opiates, but now that we've discovered how dangerous it is, we have to put these regulations in place in order to protect our young children and others from mistakenly taking this substance?
Absolutely, and I want to be very clear. Kratom is a safe product if handled properly and taken properly, but there's just a lot of unknown information out there, and so that's the purpose of this legislation is let's get it safe to where people that need it and want to use it can use it properly and safely, and that's the whole purpose of this legislation. We're not banning Kratom, which there are people in this building that want to do that, and I don't agree with that because I do think if used properly in moderation, then it can be a good and safe product.
Yeah, no more questions.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration for HB 181.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 3. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 338.
House Bill 338, a bill by Representative Irwin of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Quality Basic Education Act, so as to provide for the inclusion of methods for the promotion of the safe and appropriate use of technology and responsible digital citizenship in the Comprehensive Character Education Program and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to House Bill 338, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to provide for the inclusion of methods for the promotion of the safe and appropriate use of technology and responsible digital citizenship in the Comprehensive Character Education Program and for other purposes. Senator Dixon of the 45th offers the following amendment to amend the Senate Committee on Education and Youth substitute to House Bill 338 by replacing 2026 to 2027 with 2025 to 2026 on line 39 and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 45th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I bring HB 338 before you today. It is titled, Section 1 is titled the Student Technology Protection Act. And simply what it does is it requires a state board of education and local school districts to create a framework for age-appropriate, any type of age-appropriate material on any electronic devices, computers, laptops that are owned and issued by the school. It also prevents any type of inappropriate or obscene materials to be viewed on those computers or anything that's deemed harmful to minors. And it also, if a school district or a school system or even just an individual school is found to be in violation of this, portions of their state funding could be withheld. Section 2 has to do with language from Senate Bill 405 that I authored and we passed out of this body back in mid-February, having to do with our completion schools or our state charter schools, moving the dropout age from 18 to 16. And the reason for that, we're losing several thousand students every year, I believe, because of this, because the graduation rates and the funding is tied back to their residency school, and they have to come across as a program student, not an enrolled student when they're 16 and 17. And the school systems are reluctant to do that, or it takes a lot of time, and these kids, because of whatever situation they have or whatever they're dealing with in life, they can't fit in the box of going to school typically during that 8 to 2 period for whatever reason. And these completion schools give them flexibility to go at night and at their own pace. And we need to capture this, because some of these kids, or several of these kids that are in these schools and need this program, are just dropping out and going to work. And that's the reason for that. And it also creates a cohort graduation rate, so we can keep up with the graduation rate of these kids that are transferring over to these completion schools. And then as far as amendment number 1, that is just updating some dates, the start dates for Section 1 dealing with the Student Protection Technology Act. With that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? We have a late arriving amendment, so Secretary, read the amendment.
Senator Setzler of the 37th and others offer the following amendment to amend House Bill 338 by inserting before to provide for related matters on line 19 the following: to provide for the payment of the costs of health insurance coverage for family members of local Board of Education members and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 37th to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an amendment for myself, from the chairman, the senator from the 45th, and the senator from the 42nd. This actually passed unanimously in House Education Committee on another measure that looks like it may not make it across the process. This simply does one simple thing. Currently, the only local elected official whose family health care cannot be covered by their role in their elected office is a school board member. If you serve on a city council, council member and their family members' health care coverage can be covered optionally by the city if they want to. The same applies to county commissioners. The same applies to every local elected official, except for some reason the code doesn't allow school boards, if they choose to cover the family health care benefits of school board members. It's only limited to the member themselves. So this is a cleanup measure. It's permissive. It allows the local school district, should they choose, to cover not just the members' health care coverage, but that of their families, to be like every other local elected official. Again, passed unanimously in education, Mr. President. I'd be glad to take questions.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the Senator yield.
Yes, sir.
Sorry I hadn't been able to ask you this previously, but would the cost be borne by the school board member for the dependent coverage?
What this allows is, if the district chooses, the district can pick up that cost. Right now, they're prohibited from picking that, the cost sharing. So today, the cost sharing paid some by the member, some by the school district, is only allowable to the member. There's no allowance under current law for the district, should they choose to share the cost of family members. This would allow the districts, if they choose to help add family members to that cost sharing. But it's permissive. It's not a requirement.
Would the senator further yield?
Yes, sir.
The state, as you know, contributes quite a bit to the public schools for their state health benefit plan. I mean, it's a huge number. Does the state participate in any way on school board members, the contribution to their health care coverage? Do you know?
I don't know what the share is. I do not.
All right.
But I do know by comparison, it's only school board members for whom this is not available. So again, I think I believe it's a permissive measure. Don't know there to be a significant cost to it, but I don't have all the details.
Thank you very much.
That, Mr. President, urge your favorable consideration of amendment number 2.
Yeah, you have no questions. Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. We're going to take up 2 amendments here. I think they're both friendly amendments, but on Amendment 2, authored by the senator from the 37th, is there objection to Amendment 2? Yes. I have an objection to Amendment 2, so all those in favor of Amendment 2 will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On Amendment number 2, on the adoption of Amendment number 2, the yeas are 38 and the nays are 16, and Amendment 2 is adopted. On Amendment number 1, is there objection to Amendment number 1 authored by the senator from the 45th? No objection. Amendment number 1 is added. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, the main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 1114.
House Bill 1114, a bill by Representative Wade of the 9th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 33 of the OCGA relating to insurance so as to enact the Data Analysis for Tort Reform Act, to provide for definitions, to provide for applicability, to provide for data collection from certain insurers, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Insurance and Labor recommends that this do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Walker of the 20th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Pro Tem to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I bring to you House Bill 1114, which really does something fairly simple that I think is going to put this chamber and this legislature in a better position to make better decisions next year. This is a bill from the governor's office. It is a data collection bill. One of the questions that is driving the conversation for the need for more information is why are our insurance rates so high? Not just auto rates, but commercial rates, rates across the board. And the question is, what factors influence the rates and the premiums that we're all paying and that we're hearing a lot about from our constituents? This bill simply provides that the insurance commissioner, specifically the insurance commissioner, may request data from insurance companies. The insurance commissioner may request data from license rating organizations, and our insurance commissioner can also seek data and information from various state agencies. The insurance commission under the bill is simply then charged to analyze the data for the impact on insurance premiums and also analyze the data for purposes of what are the tort risks that are on various insurance premiums that drive those premiums up as well. The insurance commissioner is supposed to prepare a report that we'll then have access to. The report is due on November the 1st of this year. This falls into the category, folks, of more information is always better than less, and that's what this bill seeks to do. Again, I want to commend Governor Kemp for the thoughtful approach in getting this information so when we gather up here next year in 2025 for whatever bills may be filed or whatever arguments may be made, pro, con, or neutral, we'll have better data to make more informed decisions. And with that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions or yield the will.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. Please vote green on this good bill.
Did you have a senator that'd like to speak? I recognize the senator from the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I rise before you today to oppose House Bill 1114. As Chairman of Economic Development and Tourism Committee, I believe Governor Kemp Commissioner Pat Wilson, and this General Assembly have done an outstanding job recruiting companies to Georgia that has resulted in Georgia being the #1 state to do business 10 years in a row. This does not happen by accident. I'm proud of their work, and I'm proud of the work of this General Assembly when it comes to economic development and job creation. But let me also inform you, we're also the #1 judicial hellhole in the country. Our judicial system is broken, and we must address tort reform now. Our own insurance commissioner, John King, has testified that we are in a crisis, and we must address tort reform. Insurance companies are leaving our state at an alarming rate. And when you reduce competition, you increase insurance rates on hardworking Georgians. I've heard from independent truck drivers, contractors, and small business owners that say they just cannot afford these exorbitant insurance increases any longer. It is harming hardworking Georgians. Senators, we do not need to study tort reform. We need to act swiftly. Studying tort reform is akin to saying we need to study traffic in Metro Atlanta to see if we have a traffic problem. Folks, we have a traffic problem. Folks, we have a tort reform problem. This morning, I have written a letter to Governor Kemp urging him to call a special session after the May primary to address tort reform, and let's make meaningful tort reform that will help hardworking Georgians continue to prosper. Please vote no on HB 1114, and let's address tort reform now. Mr. President, if there are no questions, I yield the well.
You do have one question, Senator.
Okay.
No, he waives. Never mind. No questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Recognize the Senator from the 37th. Speak to the measure.
I won't be long, Mr. President, but I'd like to thank the pro tem for this measure. There is a need to address costs in our system. And what this bill does is it answers questions I couldn't get in the hallway as we've been having this conversation this session. There are folks that came to me and said, hey, we've got costs, we're struggling with tort costs. And I said, well, is the issue one of nuclear verdicts? Is the issue one of apportionment? Is the issue one of this issue? Or that? There wasn't real answers on where the root of the costs came from. There have been some states that have passed tort reform, and it didn't really move the needle on cost because there was sort of a Band-Aid, sort of a blind, let's take a shotgun approach to this. This allows us to see exactly where the costs are so we can take a laser-focused approach to what happens next year and moving forward with tort reform. And we're not just, again, just throwing things at the problem and not really hitting the targets. I appreciate the pro tem's leadership on this and urge support of 1114.
Recognize the Senator from the 20th.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I won't belabor this point too much, but I do want to come down here in due respect to my seatmate from the 21st. I rise in support of this bill. I'm in the insurance business, so I see firsthand every day the increasing premiums and the difficulties in placing coverage that I've never seen in the 29 years I've been in business. I do want to point out that insurance rates are going up for a variety of reasons, just like the inflation that we see in construction and the cost of vehicles, the cost to repair vehicles, medical inflation. All of those are factors in the rising premiums that we've seen, natural disasters and weather events that we haven't seen in the past that are becoming more and more frequent. So there's just a bunch of factors involved with the increase in premiums and the difficulty in placing insurance. Our tort system certainly is one factor, and I think the governor is being wise to take a measured approach, get the data. This bill will require the insurance companies to turn over claims data that they otherwise would not turn over because of its proprietary information. So this makes them turn over their claims information so that it can be analyzed and studied, and we can be prudent in what measures we pass here to try to address the problem. So please vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from 51st.
Thank you. Will the senator yield for questions?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true you are a professional in the insurance industry?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us why some of your insurance companies in Georgia are deciding not to cover businesses and individuals for insurance in the near future?
Well, insurance companies are in business to make a profit, and they can deploy their capital wherever they want to in the country, really in the world. So they are making decisions based on stockholder value and maximizing stockholder value. I think I went through the litany of all the different issues, weather events, our tort environment, the extreme inflation we've seen under the current administration. All of those are factors that impact insurance companies and their ability to make a profit, and then the low interest rate environment that we've had for a number of years, because a lot of if they can break even on their claims and underwriting costs, if they can break even, they can make a profit off the return on their investment because they're able to hold the money for a while before they have to pay out the claims. This low interest rate environment has also been a factor.
Thank you for that explanation. Isn't it also true that every time an insurance company decides to leave Georgia, there's fewer companies that will offer that insurance to all of us as citizens, not just businesses, but individuals at home and with our families? So isn't there a direct correlation with your premiums going up with fewer companies selling those insurance policies?
We're entering that stage, I think, where we may see some of that. Fortunately, we've not seen an exodus of carriers from Georgia, but we are starting to see them restrict types of risks they want to write and leaving certain markets, but they haven't left our state. We're still a great state in which to do business for the insurance companies, and they're going to figure this out, and they'll get back to profitability. But
thank you, Senator. Last question.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be wise for every senator in this chamber to vote for this bill so we can help lower insurance costs for the 11 million Georgians that we represent?
I wholeheartly agree. Thank you
very much.
Any other questions?
You have one more question, Senator. Recognize the senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, is it not true that some insurers are dropping those that are covered, pushing them, especially in the commercial space, to the secondary market for insurance? And is it not further true that those same companies that drop them in the primary market are the investors in the new insurance companies in the secondary market, thus increasing premiums sometimes anywhere from 30 to 150% from what they had originally paid the previous policy period? Is that not also true?
I think there's probably instances of that going on. I believe in the free market, and we have a very, very robust and very competitive insurance market in Georgia, and I think that there's enough competition that'll come in and backfill where if a carrier is trying to gouge customers, I think they're going to lose business and somebody else will step up and take it. And that's the beauty of our system, is a lot of good, robust competition. But I do think this is a very prudent step to get the data so we know exactly what's creating this situation, and we can more appropriately address it.
You have no further questions,
Thank
Senator.
you.
Recognize the senator from the 50th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today in favor of this legislation. The results of this legislation could potentially be one of the most impactful things for your citizens that we've seen in a long time. How insurance companies set premiums, the factors they put into determining risks, risk assessments, a lot of that is unknown. There's a lot of data out there that we need in order to determine how to best stabilize premiums for your constituents, for your small business owners. This bill is I think, one of the best approaches we can take. As Governor Kemp said at a breakfast early on in session, we need to take a Georgia-specific approach to the problem that we're seeing in insurance right now. And this is that approach, and we will get very good data from this. And I implore every member of this body to vote for this legislation. It is going to be very impactful and very important for your constituents and for Georgia as a whole to remain the #1 state in the nation and do business. So, Mr. President, I ask for everyone in this chamber to vote for this bill, and I yield the will.
All right. Senator from the 16th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just encourage you to support this bill. After 47 years in the insurance business, we have seen a lot of things go on, but this is where Georgia is unfavored from a standpoint of many of the companies. This is a stepping stone. It's a starting of taking the facts, the figures, and what's going on for what's happening in Georgia. We have carriers that are pulling out of the state. We have carriers that are cutting commissions. We have carriers just saying, we don't want any new business in Georgia. And here's the part. You've got to understand that there are 50 states. Companies can move their business, their capital to other states. We need to keep Georgia as attractive as we can because we're the #1 state to do business. But part of that is the issue of insurance. This is a start. It pulls the data together. It makes things happen. And we need to do this for the citizens of Georgia as we represent them so that we've got good data to make good decisions and ultimately to keep Georgia #1 to do business, but not only #1 to do business, but Georgia #1 place to live and raise a family and have life. So I encourage you to vote yes on this bill.
All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Would you like to close debate, Senator?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very briefly, first I want to thank all those that spoke in favor of the bill. And again, I appreciate the governor's office bringing this forward to us. And thank you for being thoughtful about this approach. And many of us are realizing, and many of you are realizing even more and more, what can happen over the ensuing months between now and the time that we get this report from the insurance commissioner. To the senator from the 21st, I appreciate your comments. I understand we are all proud to be #1 state in which to do business. We are not inexplicably, but very oddly also ranked as a judicial hellhole. And I appreciate your comment that we need to do something on tort reform. But Senator, with all due respect, it's day 39. It is day 39. And with regard to the question of whether or not we need tort reform or you think we do not need tort reform, or if you're agnostic on it, this bill is good for you no matter where you stand because it puts you in a position to get more information, more data, and make a better, more informed decision, whether it's next year, hopefully next year, if there are initiatives brought before us on which to vote. Lastly, with regard to why don't we just wait and call a special session, again, Senator, I appreciate the thought. The problem is that's not what the governor's asked us to do. He has asked us to vote on this bill. And that's why it is before you for a vote now. Let's do what the governor has asked for. And again, thank you for those who have spoken in favor of it. It's a real simple, forward piece of legislation that is thoughtful, that will be beneficial to us as we come back next year. And Mr. President, I yield the well and ask you to please vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 38, the nays are 16. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I wanted to take time real quick to recognize some local heroes I have behind me. Actually, these young ladies are University of Georgia freshmen, members of the Kappa Alpha Theta sorority. And I don't know if y'all remember reading in the newspaper about 5 young ladies that were driving to St. Patty's Day, and they noticed a car go off the road into the river down in Burke County. And these young ladies not only jumped in to save a mother and 2 children, but one of these young ladies actually performed CPR because one of the children that was unconscious was not breathing or anything. So I want the Senate and everyone, and I think their parents are here, I'm going to stand and give these young ladies a very, very heartfelt thank you and warm welcome here in the Senate here. So. Miss Caitlin Anachi, raise your hand, Caitlin. There's Caitlin. Clark Jones, right there. Jane McCarley, Molly McCullum, and Eleanor Cart. So let's give these ladies a round of applause again. Good job, girls. Secretary will read House Bill 916.
House Bill 916, a bill by Representative Burns of the 159th and others, a bill to be titled Act to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025, to make and provide such appropriations for the operation of the state government and its departments and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Appropriations recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Tillery of the 19th District Chairman. The Senate Appropriations Committee substitute to House Bill 916, a bill to be entitled an act to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 19th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The budget is not the most exciting thing on the Senate right now. Members, I bring to you House Bill 916 as amended by the Senate Appropriations Committee. It's the FY25 general budget, $36.08 billion, and it's about 4.3% under our FY 2023 collections, with tax receipts projected to be about 3.9% under those as well. I want to hit a few of the highlights, take any of your questions. Big things that we agree on: statewide employee pay initiatives, targeted paid adjustments, state health benefit adjustments, and retirement systems. You'll see the Senate agrees to the proposed FY 2025 COLA of 4% up to a max of $3,000 for eligible full-time state employees due to the use of state salary schedules. Certified teachers will receive a leveling increase of $2,500. and certified teacher assistants and pre-K enrolls will also see a level $2,500 increase. The Senate also agrees to a $42.8 million adjustment to meet actuarial determined employer contribution rates and increases for the teacher retirement system. The Senate agrees and adjusts the state health benefit plan employer contributions to the tune of $248 million for educational institutions, as well as $141.5 million for non-certified school employees. The Senate also agrees to the House proposal and the governor's request to amend adjustments at the University of Georgia, University System of Georgia, rather, for health benefits to the tune of $23.5 million, and we also encourage the USG system to consider including themselves in the state health benefit plan we use for other state employees. Above those pay increases, the Senate also targeted specific areas. Law enforcement, $3,000 increase on top of the 4% for $46.7 million. Department of Human Services, $3,000 increase on top of the 4% for an additional $4.6 million. The Department of Agriculture and Consumer Protection, $1.2 million for $2,000 on top of the 3% for our food protection in sectors. Banking, an area that we have not touched previously, but we're starting to lose employees to our federal partners, $152,000 for a $2,000 increase on top of the 4%. The Department of Community Health for our healthcare facility regulators, it's a role that we've had a lot of difficulty filling, $382,000 for a $2,000 increase on top of the 4%, as well as $807,000 to fund a second intended phase of retention plan at the Department of Law and Attorneys General. We also, the Senate agrees to the House proposal to add $2.1 million for a total of targeted retention target retention at 229 crime lab specialists, scientists, and technicians who work in our evidence departments and help us prove and impact solving crimes. You heard about a whole lot of spends and a whole lot of spends on employees. The Senate proposal also tries to address our fiscal liabilities. The Senate adjusted the amount appropriated for defeasance of bonds to a tune of $64.1 million, up from the House's proposal of $30.7 million. Our thought there is, let's find the bonds that the interest rate is higher than what we're making in our banks, and let's go ahead and pay them off early. The Senate takes a fiscal move and did that to the tune of $64 million. At Economic Development, the Senate proposal removes funding for a special project manager for a paused project and agrees to add $10 million for elevator and escalator equipment modernization at the Georgia World Congress Center. At education and higher education budget lines, I tried to combine them together. The Senate meets and exceeds the governor and the House position and adds a total of $9.2 million to raise the Child Care and Parent Services, the CAPS program, to exceed past the 50th percentile. We thought at the time we were hitting the 75th percentile. We might be slightly lower than that, but we understand how much that mattered to members of this body, and we sought to meet that request. The Senate also modifies the proposal to approach literacy improvements and adds $6.1 million for a more cost-effective and time-responsive training measure for literacy coaches, K-3 teachers, and English as a second language literacy training, with a focus on the bottom 25% of schools. The Senate proposal agrees and adds $207 million for pupil transportation. It also adds $266 million in the QBE equalization formula and $243 million for school enrollment growth. The Senate proposal meets the House and the governor's proposal by adding $103.9 million to establish school safety security grants and adds an additional $5 million at the request of our Lieutenant Governor to make sure that school safety is a priority. The Senate found savings in realizing a combination of screeners that could be used for our dyslexia and our literacy programs. We also added monies, $473 to supplement math pilot programs. And we were able to agree with the House and the governor to restore $66 million to annualize the proposal to restore funds at the teaching formula in USG. The Senate didn't necessarily, well, there are a few more agrees in the education budget alone, $15 million just to meet projected enrollment growth for dual enrollment. We did have some disagrees, though. One I want to point out is we did not agree with the House on the establishment of an adult learner program, and that's something I'm sure we'll revisit in conference. The Senate's proposal also funds various capital buildings. We heard from you on your interest in funding the Hardy Hall renovations in Milledgeville, the nursing and science additions at Coastal Georgia and Glenn County, several partial renovations of the Fine Arts Building in Valdosta, the HVAC renewal at Savannah State University, the Lakeview Dental and Nursing School at Georgia Highlands in Rome, the renovation of I want to mention this one first, and also constructions of major repairs at Georgia Military College in Milledgeville. The Senate proposal also includes funding for various libraries, the Dawson County Public Library, the Westtown Library in Albany, the renovation of the Appleby Branch Library in Augusta, and construction of the Morgan County Library in Madison. With the Senate also funded design and construction for building HVAC maintenance at Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville. In our technical schools, the Senate also met some funding for various buildings there as well. Design and construction for industry technology. The deny was the rest of the request y'all brought. I'm so sorry. Design and construct for industrial technologies and renovation at Georgia Northwestern Technical College in Rome. Construction of the Jack Hill Conference Center in Savannah. Additional construction dollars at the Mark Ivester Center in Clarksville. Construction of a commercial driver's license pad at Northwest Georgia Technical College in Dalton. Design funds for the advanced manufacturing at Columbus Technical College in Augusta. And design funds for a project that I know many of you have championed at the Hank Aaron Academic Complex at Atlanta Technical College, obviously here in Atlanta. At Health and Human Development, the Senate agreed and add $1.5 million for 20 administrative oversight positions. You've heard about different comments and concerns you may have heard from constituents about our managed care organizations. DCH has told us that they need to beef up their staff. In other states, there's a one-to-one staff match from CMO people to DCH people. We've not had that match here. The Senate proposal adds $1.5 million for 20 additional administrative oversight positions to help get us to that level. The House and the Senate's proposal both include various increases for reimbursement rates in speech pathology, speech language pathology, audiology, physical therapy, and occupational therapy providers. Other House and Senate initiatives were agreeing to the increases in adult coverage for dental services, select primary codes for OBGYN, select optometry codes, as well as including funding for the continuous glucose monitoring system. There's a program that I learned about GAP, Georgia Adolescents and Pediatrics. I'm going to screw it up. The folks are standing in the wall. They know what I'm talking about. It is one of the programs that I personally feel is the most sympathetic of all those who come and ask for raises and increases here. We're down to one provider statewide, and these children usually have tracheotomies, need trachs changed out, sometimes multi-times daily. The Senate met the full, doubled the House ask for a full funding of the GAP provider rate increase, and that's one of the items that I am most proud of we were able to do in this budget. The House and Senate proposal also include an increased dispensing fee for low-volume pharmacies, those of you who've been hearing from your independent pharmacists. But we did not agree to the House proposal for an increase in EMS transport reimbursements to begin at 0 miles for the first 10 miles. We'll work on that as well in conference. The Senate proposal agrees with the House figure and adds $2 million for 105 new residency slots in primary care. And we also add $79.9 million to implement the Now Comp waiver provider rate study. We also came into this budget and annualized the 513 Now Comp waivers we funded last year, as well as adding a 100 increase. The Senate's proposal agrees with the governor and adds $3.7 million for operations at a crisis center in Fulton County. We also add $1.5 million for a crisis center in Dublin and $1.2 million for a crisis center in Augusta. As you know, mental health is not going away. It's filling our jails and our prisons. It's now filling our hospitals. And we have to have somewhere for these individuals to go where they can receive the help they need, and it's usually not behind a jail cell. The Senate met with the Sexual Offender Risk Review Board, and our Senate subcommittee brought a great proposal to help end a 7-year backlog that board faces. The Senate proposal adds additional $3 million to knock out that backlog over 3 years, rather than allowing it to go the full 7 that it would take with the current funding. We also recognize the start in the amended 24 of an annualized wraparound services for a pilot for Unite Us, provides wraparound services in our DHS agencies. The Senate proposal agrees and adds $4.7 million in annual funding to the Gwinnett Commercial Sexual Exploitation Recovery Center. It's a safe harbor for sexually exploited children, and the commission is a fund, and obviously you know that that's also a priority of the senator from the 48th, the senator from various other senators from the Gwinnett County area, and the First Lady. The Senate's proposal also adds $6 million towards a multi-year plan to stabilize the state trauma network. We know, or we have seen data that shows there's a 1 to 4 return on dollars invested in this. The 1 to 4 return in dollars does not even begin to measure the return we see in life. In transportation, the Senate agreed to add $1.9 million to maintain for the maintenance of card service cloud servers upon migration for our Department of Transportation and for our Department of Driver Services. We also added $3.6 million to add and bring into a base amount of $30 million for airport aid, and we applied $4.0 million in motor fuel to GDOT Program Delivery Administration. The Senate agreed and applied $27.4 million in motor fuel revenue to rising costs needed for capacity just to meet the current routine maintenance of the Department of Transportation. And we agreed and recognized $11.4 million in transit funds on additional collections of hotel motel fees and excise taxes. The Senate agreed and added $3.9 million to support recruitment in our HERO units. We also added reduced $4 million because of reduced ridership and for future efficiencies due at the ATL. Last but not least, in the transportation items, the Senate agreed and reduced $19.7 million at the State Road and Tollway Authority to reflect the decreases in debt requirements. At Criminal Justice and Public Safety, the Senate had several changes there. We disagreed with the governor and the House proposal on the number of community supervision aides and positions. We proposed 17 instead of the numbers that they were at. That's for $1.1 million. We agreed but adjusted funding to continue recruitment advertising campaigns and work culture review at the Department of Corrections. And we added $71.9 million to the Department of Corrections for physical health and pharmacy service contracts to be fulfilled by a new provider. The Senate's budget also adds $10 million to annualize the Department of Corrections operations of 400 new transition beds at the Metro Reentry Phase 4 for the Department of Corrections. The Senate added $15.4 million to continue an effort to install safety, security, and technology initiatives at state prisons. This is something we've discussed ad nauseum. I know many of you, like me, share the absolute disdain of cell phones entering our prisons. We feel that there's a safety issue there as well as a public trust issue. And this $15.4 million will allow us to address that we addressed it in the amended, we're addressing it now, and we think a 3-year phase-in we'll be able to do this across all of our prison facilities. The Senate proposal also agrees to add $4.8 million for positions and operations at the GBI Task Force in Columbus and various other law enforcement raises across the GBI, CJCC, and our other law enforcement agencies. At CJCC specifically, I want to talk about VOCA, our sexual assault centers and our facilities that we have there. The governor's proposal brought ARPA dollars of about, I think, $26 million. You'll see that the House and Senate proposal right now stands at an additional $20 million. We've been in discussions with these individuals over the past 4 years. There's a huge cliff to the federal funds they've received. The state funds that we're putting in place of those federal funds do not even meet the federal fund cliff that they're falling off of. It doesn't make that full. But it does help for now, and we will continue these talks. We know this is not something we can do every year or do long term, but it's something that we feel is important and want to meet it while we can. The Senate's budget also includes $40 million for the construction of a medical examiner's annex in Decatur at DeKalb County. the replacement of about 111 vehicles at the Department of Community Service that were now what you used to think of as probation officers. We also include the $15 million I mentioned to you earlier at corrections and $15 million in public safety for major improvements across a variety of different post and capital expenditures. The Senate's proposal also includes $2.1 million at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. If we're going to have the best in the business, we have to invest in that, and the Senate's proposal, we feel, does so. For agriculture and natural resources, the Senate agreed and added $267,000 for 2 shellfish positions and for the certification program that's related therewith for shellfish. I can almost not say that one. The Senate also agreed and added $700,000 for agricultural improvements. The Senate did disagree with the House on the proposal for a CIS, a information security officer, and we disagreed with the addition of state funds to develop a master state farmer program at the Soil and Water Commission. The Senate was able to agree and add $350,000 for 5 additional positions to support agricultural water withdrawal permit activities. We know that's something that's been extremely important to the senator from the 11th and the senator from the 8th. And the Senate also added $577,000 for 6 additional game warden positions at our DNR law enforcement division. In government operations, the Senate agreed and added $13.3 million in agencies for billing. This is some of the non-pretty stuff. You don't necessarily have constituents writing you and talking to you about these things, but they're vitally important. We also agreed to add $19.4 million for agency billing for telecommunications and $15 million to enhance and standardize cybersecurity services for executive branch agencies. The Senate agreed and added $10.5 million in GBA for rent rental increases at the Capitol Police. And we added $3.3 million to address contract increases and other impacts regarding motor vehicle registration and licensing at the Department of Revenue. The Senate agreed and added 5 election security positions associated with the operations of elections delivery via existing funds and modest inclusions of state funds at the Secretary of State's office. But we disagreed and did not add funding for a third-party ballot text auditing technology that was in the proposal as it came over from the House. The Senate also added $1.8 million. I know many of you had constituent calls about licensing, and we wanted to add support services positions there. And we matched the House half add of $292,000 for investigative operations at the State Elections Board. In our judicial branch, the Senate agreed and added $209,000 for civil legal services for families of indigent patients. We also added $300,000 for 2 IT positions to support juvenile court case management systems. That's what we started in the amended when we talked about getting that backlog of cases for dependency moving. As you know, the judicial branch proposed a salary structure plan which cost around $22 million. The House took half of that money when they sent the bill over, essentially tempting us to take the other half. We did not take their bait. We took 5/6 of that half and left 1 month. And while the 2 chambers, I'm sure, will debate what to do in the future, right now we've just contemplated a delay in that decision. The Senate did disagree with proposals from the House to add salary enhancements at prosecuting attorneys and public defenders beyond the COLA that was already provided. And we also agreed with the House and added $822,000 to expand the gang prosecution units in Columbus, Macon, and the Middle Georgia regions at the Department of Law. Last and not least, I'll mention that the Senate agreed and added $1.4 million for positions that I know have been important to this body that you've heard about, from whether it be our Georgia Chamber, it be your business owners, or it just be people who you've had to encounter in the community who've been victims of these things. And $1.4 million for positions for the creation of an organized retail crime and cyber crime prosecution unit at the Department of Law. You know, when you get to this level of the session, day 39, everyone's beleaguered. You're looking for a sagacious way to find your bill to get across the finish line, and sometimes they get across in remarkably or prodigious ways. Everyone who's working on these items in this budget has had a part of what we've been able to present to you now, and I truly, truly appreciate it. Whether you were working, working on your own bill that was clowning around bringing something into our budget here, or you were joining us for chicken salad as we sat over for 36 hours in a row trying to meet to knock this budget out, I appreciate everything you've put into getting to where we are now. This budget did not make itself. You had a part in it, but there are a few people, 10 or 15, that may have had a little bit more to do with it than you and I. And some of them are here in this room. The first one I want to mention is someone who I in the past forgot to mention, Miss Angela Toohey downstairs. You know, Miss Angela used to work for Senator George Hooks when he was chairman. She worked for Senator Jack Hill while he was chairman, and I was an intern 20 plus years ago. She knows everything about the building. She will be embarrassed if she knows I told you this, but because she came back in a retired position, she actually worked 6 months for free for us. Didn't ever draw a check at all, and never said a word until I asked her about it in January. They don't make people like Angela Toohey. And I'm so thankful that she came back to join us. Miss Angela, I know you're watching this. Oh, there you are in the back. I thought you were downstairs hiding. Thank you so much for what you helped to do to make this be a process that will work for us. No one expects anybody to work for free. You know, we get bills brought up to asking us to amend retirement things from time to time. Our staff doesn't have those things. They can't retire and then come back. And Miss Angela doesn't look like she's old enough to have retired, but she did, and she worked 6 months for free for our Senate without telling any of us. Literally, if I had not been looking at sheets, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out, and I wouldn't have had those sheets if I wasn't appropriations chair. Jordan Powell, our intern, appreciate the work you've put in this time. Brent Churchwell and Austin Trott at our Senate Budget Office, as well as the other 10 members that are around the hall, and Courtney, who's back in the office. Virginia, Griffin, Lindsay, Martha Grace, Jennifer, Jack, I'm missing somebody, Caitlin, and Mary, who is absolutely brilliant, genius, and freaking aced her LSAT, so we know we won't have her next year, but appreciate her being here. Thank you all so much for helping get us to where we are here today. Appreciate you. We also have partners across the hall and downstairs, and I see Chairman Hatchett in the back. Chairman Hatchett, appreciate the help from the House. You guys had it a little longer than we did, but I ain't saying anything more about it than that. And I appreciate your friendship and how you've worked together, and even how we worked together in the past weeks. Your budget office is supreme, ran by Christine Murdoch, and this doesn't happen without them. And last but not least, OPB, the Office of Planning and Budget from the Governor, and Director Dunn. While we have not always liked the answers and the comments that we have heard from them this year, I will have to say that they have been extremely communicative, even when the answer was not something that we liked. And Director Dunn, Governor Kemp, and your staff, we appreciate the communication that even we would like to know now, never be surprised, and we want to make sure that we try our best to communicate back with you as well. Senators, thank you for allowing me to shepherd to this point the Senate committee substitute to House Bill 916, and if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Senator, you do have a couple questions. Recognize Senator from the 15th.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, first of all, let me thank you as usual for your great work that you do in the budget. It's just really amazing how well you and your staff handle this, and I want to express my appreciation for the Columbus input for those criminal kind of activities that we're addressing in our city, myself and the senator from the 29th. But also, you know, I always try to look out for the sickle cell kind of activity. I'm trying to inquire where are we with that, and did we get a chance to make a contribution? There's such a painful kind of situation that goes on there. I go around the state listening to them about the problem they have, but hopefully we can alleviate that a little with the great work you guys trying to look out for them and put those hematologists and people like that in the budget.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Senator. And when you started saying make a donation to him, I thought you were talking to me personally first, and I had to sit back here and reach back from my pocket. But I understand what you're saying. Yes, sir. We tried to address sickle cell in this budget. Your request every year, we know to expect them. You've been a champion of that cause, and the folks who suffer with that disease are proud to have you in the position that you're in to fight for them every year.
We meet or exceed the House, though.
Yeah, I was trying to turn to the line you're on. I think we exceeded it by 200,000, but I honest to goodness don't remember. Chairman Hatchett in the back told me that I did, and he also said we're going to be okay. So I apologize, I can't get to that page right now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 17th. You wave. Senator from the 26th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, great job. Question I want to pose to you. Have we looked at transportation and getting that third lane coming out of Savannah from the port? Because now the trucks are on the road, and when you come into Atlanta, you can tell it because the trucks are backed up in McDonald.
Yes, sir. I drive that route just like you, coming from Vidalia up I-16 to hit 75, and I always know that once I get to about the senator from the 17th district that I'm going to be slowing down. Do appreciate what GDOT's done with the reversible lanes. I know there's plans in place to make those where there's another lane so it does not have to be reversible, as well as the truck toll lanes that they're working on. On I-16 specifically, you know the plan is the 4-lane up to the I-95 interchange right now. They are already looking west of there. Yes, sir, we know we need to address that. My plan, it's not GDOT's plan yet, is eventually we've got to come through your district, through Savannah, and provide folks a way to get to I-20 without ever coming to Atlanta. Right now, the traffic data does not suggest that many people would use that route. Folks want to come to Atlanta. They're trying to come here to get out their goods, get out their services, live, work, or play. So that route coming, if you were to extend I-16 west and hit into I-20, that's a pipe dream of mine. I think it helps our infrastructure for our state. But right now, the traffic that would take that, based upon the trucks that cross in Savannah and then we see in Carrollton, that it doesn't justify it at the time.
You have no further questions, Senator.
Members, thank you so much for allowing me to bring you this proposal. I ask for your favorable consideration of the Senate Committee substitute to House Bill 916. Thank you so much.
Good job, Senator. Senator from the 28th.
Mr. President, I move that we table HB 916.
You move that we table HB 916?
I withdraw that.
You were looking pretty serious. I was sitting there kind of wondering what was going on. Once again, thank Appropriations Chair and his staff for everything they've done on this budget real quick. It's rare to have both the Appropriations Chair in the same room. I mean, this is kind of bad because we can't blame the House for anything right now because got the Appropriations Chair back there in the back watching over everything. But good job, Representative Hatchett. We appreciate your hard work on this as well, too. So y'all can clap for him. Clap for him. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to hearing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, yeas are 53 and nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Hey, so we're going to break for lunch real quick. I know the pro tem has some lunch in the ante room, so we will break for lunch. So we'll stand at ease for. We'll try to come back in about, I don't know, almost 2 o'clock. That'll give you about 45 minutes. So stand at ease.